Hey everybody, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about section 2.3, equations involving decimals and problem solving. This section only has examples, as the text says. So, example 1. Solve s equals 1.95 plus 0.35s. So what we gotta do is we gotta bring the s's to one side and then keep the numbers on the other side. So just like we did in previous times. So we're gonna subtract both sides with 0.35s to get s minus 0.35s equals, let me change that, 5. It actually looks like 1. Equals 1.95. And then we're going to subtract, right? Yeah. Okay, so, s is basically equal to 1s, so we don't really need to do anything about that. But, so we're going to do 1.0 s minus 0.35 s. And this is basically like normal subtraction. So you do all of your subtraction, like you do the carryover stuff, and then you do the subtraction. So 5 and 6, and then you get point, and then s, and then you put a 0. So that's pretty much it. Cause you gotta bring, remember that you have to bring the decimal down to wherever position it is. So say you have 1.123 and 2.13. You have to make sure it lines up like this so that the decimals match, and then you can just bring it down to one spot. So the decimals are going to go there. There's going to be one number here and then 3 decimals here. Or not 3 decimals, but 3 numbers after the decimal here. It's going to be 2, 5, and 3. Going to be 2.253. That would be the answer if you're adding it. Okay, so let's move on. So we get 0.65 s. Wow, that's a pretty wonky 5 there. Equals 1.95. Now you're going to divide both sides with 0.65, and you get s equals 1.95 over 0.65. And we are not done yet, so we gotta remove the decimal point. And you're probably asking how do you do that? Well, it's actually really simple. So based on however many numbers are after the decimal point, and for the numerator and denominator, you just move the decimal over that many places. So since it's two numbers after the decimal point, you just move the decimal point over 2 places for both the equations. The both is like very, very important, because if you don't do it for one equation, that's going to be kind of bad. Oh my god. Okay, so what happens if it's 1.953 and 0.6, or no, 23210. Wait, actually no, the zero's not even included. 2. Okay, so then what you would just do is you would move the decimal over however many places you can, based on the numbers that are to the right of the decimal. So since there's 3 numbers over here and more than 3 numbers over here, you can only move the decimal places 3 numbers on both equations. So we just do that, and then the final thing would be 1953 over 232.12. Okay, no, that's not for that. Now let's actually solve the equation. So for this, we have 195 over 65, and this times, okay, so yeah, we get s equals 3, which is pretty small if you think. Okay, so Carol bought our dress at a 35% discount sale for $32.50. What is the original price of the dress? So when you're doing discounts and stuff like that, what you want to do is, in order to make the equation simpler, when you're doing the discount of something, instead of using this discount number, subtract it from 100. So you would do 100 minus 35, and then that gets you 65%. So use this discount number, and then you won't have to actually do anything. Here, I'll show you what I mean in this example. So, here's what we're going to do. So we're going to do, since we don't know what the original price of the dress is, we're going to label it as X. So what you would normally do, if you only took the highlighted number, what you would have to do is you would have to do this extra step where you would do, let's see, the original price is X, right? Yeah. So X minus 35% of X. That's what you'd have to do. Is equal to 32.5. We're just going to ignore the dollar sign and then the decimal place for now. We'll get back to it later. And then you'd have to, what's it called? Subtract the, so this is really 100% X. 100% of X minus 35% of X, which would really equal to 65% of X equals to 32.5. But if you just took the 100%, if you subtracted 100% of it in the first place, all you would just have to write is this second line, and you would not have to do this first line, which just takes way too much time, you know? None of us have that much time to spare. So, if you want to like do an extra step, you can just do what I did up here. But if you want to skip it, you can just mentally do the 100 minus 35, and then you would get result in 65%. But when you're doing it in a test, you gotta explain your math. Otherwise, they probably won't count your work. So, 65% of X, we can just write it as 65 over 100 times X is equal to 32.5. Now, we're going to do the reciprocal of 65 over 100, which is 100 over 65, multiplied on both sides, so that we can get rid of the number and just have plain X. And then we would do 32.5 times 100, just fix that, 5, over 65. So now, since it's 100, since we have zeros, we're going to multiply, and each time we use a 0, we're going to move the decimal place over 1. So since we only have one number to the right of the decimal place, we only need to use 1 0, and then that's going to get rid of that 0. So now we just have 32.5 times 10 over 65. Or not 32.5. If I said 32.5, I meant to say 325 times 10 over 65. And then we're just going to simplify it. So 13. And this is going to be 65. And this is going to be 5. Okay. And then we're going to get $50. That's going to be your final price. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. Okay, so Jason received a private mailing coupon from an electronics store that offered 12% off any item. If he uses the coupon, how much will he have to pay for a laptop that is priced at $900? So, once again, we're doing a discount. This time, instead of 35% off, we have 12% off. And we're going to do the 100 minus 12, because I think it's just a little bit easier. Just do one step in your head, and one last step you have to write down. So you have 100 minus 12, which is 88. Yeah, 88. Okay. So you have 88% of $900. So this time we're given the X, and we need to find out this value of the discounted price. So we're gonna do 88 over 100 times 900. So since there's 2 zeros on that 900 and 2 zeros with our 100, cross off the 2 zeros on both of the numbers, and then we're just going to be left with 88 times 9. And I don't know what 88 times 9 is, so I'm going to multiply it out in front of you guys. So 8 times 9 is 72. 9 times 8 is 72 plus 7, which is 79. So it's going to be a final price. So this question mark is equal to $792. So my man's going to have to pay almost $800 for his laptop. Kind of expensive if you ask me. So, example 5. Heather... Oh, I think I forgot to put an H there. Looks like heater, but it's supposed to be Heather. Bought some artwork at an online auction for $400. She wants to resell the artwork online and make a 40% profit. What should she sell the artwork? So, this is like markup. If you don't know what markup is, it's basically when a retailer, what's it called? A shop owner or whatever, like a business, a person who owns like a grocery shop or something like that, and he buys some fruit. So say the price of the fruit is like $10, and he wants to make some profit off of it. So he's obviously gonna rank up the price, and that's when someone ramps up the price from the original purchase price. That's gonna be called markup. So in this case, she wants to make a profit, and what we have to do for profit is, instead of doing 40% of 400 and then adding that up, we can just do 140% of 400, and then you're just gonna go straight to the answer when you simplify this. We can do the 40% of 400 as well, just to prove that adding the 100% is going to be right. So let's do the 140 over 100 times 400, and then we're going to get 40 over 100 times 400. And then we're going to cross out the zeros. So on this one we have 14 times 4, which is going to be 56. But we have a 0 with the 140, so then we're going to add a 0, and this is going to be 160. So then, remember, we have to add it to the $400, and if you've already done the mental math, then you can probably figure out that 400 plus 160 is $560, which is exactly what I got when I did the 140% times 400. So you can see that when doing this method, the 40% of 400, that's going to take a little bit more time than this one. So yeah, it's based up on your personal preference on which one you want to do, but I prefer to do the simpler way. Okay, so a man invests $8,000, part of it at 6% and the remainder of it at 8%. His total yearly investments from the two investments is $580. How much did he invest at each rate? So we know that a man, whatever his name is, let's say his name is George, he invests $8,000, part of it at 6% and the remainder of it at 8%. His total yearly interest from the two investments is $580. How much did he invest at each rate? So now we're going to, let's do 6% of the X amount of dollars he invested plus 8% of the $8,000 minus X dollars he invested is equal to the $580 that he earned. So we're going to turn it into decimals, because before I turn it into a fraction instead of a decimal, when this chapter is really about decimals. So You have 0.06x plus 0.08 times 8,000 minus x equals 580. And let's just do the distributor property and everything. So 0.06x plus 0.08. Oh wait, I forgot to do the times 8,000. So we're gonna do the 1, 2, get rid of 2 zeros, and then you're gonna get 8 times 80, which is 640. So you get 640. Get rid of those lines. Okay, there we go. So you can get 640, and then you're gonna do subtraction because it's a subtraction sign in there. Addition times subtraction is subtraction. And you're going to get 0.08x is equal to 580. Now, we are going to bring the numbers on one side and all that stuff. So, when you simplify everything, you're going to get, oh my god, this was a 0.6 instead of a 0.06x. Not 006. 06x. Okay, there we go. So, when you subtract and do everything and all that stuff, you're going to notice that you get negative 0.02x is equal to negative, what would it be? Negative 60, yeah. So, that's actually perfectly fine. Since there's a negative on both sides of the equal sign, we can just cross it out and it becomes positive. So you're going to get 0.02x is equal to 60. Now we're going to get rid of the decimal by multiplying, well, what could we do? Okay, yeah, so we're going to get rid of the decimal and the number by dividing a 200. Yes. No, actually we're not going to divide 200. We're going to multiply each side with 100. So, let's see. We're going to get 2x equals 6t, and then add 2 more zeros. And so, since we're multiplying with 100 with the 0.02x times 100, we notice that there's 2 zeros, 2 decimal places, or two numbers after the decimal place. Move the decimal over, cross out the zeros, and you're done. You have a whole number now. I'm going to divide both sides with 2. X is equal to $6,000 divided by 2 is equal to $3,000. Okay, so now we go back up to the top. We figured out X. X is the amount he invested at his 6% rate. And 8,000, he had 8,000, right? $8,000, not 18. $8,000, right? And he spent 3,000 of them on the 6% and the remainder on the 8%. So we're going to subtract $3,000. You can probably do this in your head. Excuse me. And then you're going to get $5,000 left over for the 8% investment. So he spent $3,000 for the 6% and $5,000 for the 8% in order to get $580 for his earnings. Alright, that's it for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you didn't, then I really can't do anything about it. Just leave a comment, ask me, or email me on something I can improve on. If you did like it, go ahead and subscribe and leave a thumbs up. Maybe if you think that I can improve in some way, you can comment as well. Otherwise, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.